174.
Did you wrestle one year at 174, or were you at 84?
I wrestled 74 my freshman year, yeah. So I did my first NCAA tournament was at 74. I feel like traditionally once 65, 74, there's always tough weights, but those two weights have always been stacked. Maybe I'm biased because that's always all the guys that I, knew growing up, but we have 3 guys at this weight, in my opinion, that if they were like in any other era, like not the same as each other, they would all be, multiple time champion type guys. And it's going to be a fun tournament to watch these guys. I mean, there's a lot of, tough guys throughout the whole weight, but the top 3 with O'Toole, Levi Haynes, and Hamady, man, those are some absolute hammers right there.
This is my favorite weight class for the top guys. This is like the semis that I'm most excited for, and the finals that I'm most excited for at this weight class, I think. Like, out of every weight, I just think with Keegan, you got Levi, and, I mean, Hamidi's just really evolved too. I think Oklahoma State's been his best friend. That was probably the best move we've seen. Does he have another year left of eligibility, or is this it?
I think this is it. I think this is it for him, because he did 3 years at Wisconsin before moving to OSU. I'm pretty sure this is his last year.
Did he get a COVID year out of it? Like an extra fifth, like a fifth one?
Oh, yeah, maybe. Let me look here real quick.
Because maybe he did 4 at Wisconsin, or if he did 3, and then maybe gets an extra year next year.
He might have another year, yeah.
I think he only did 3 at Wisconsin.
He did 3 at Wisconsin, but he wouldn't be able to have 5 NCAA tournaments. The timing wouldn't work out.
Oh.
Yeah, he was in high school still.
Yeah, so he's this is his last year then. But yeah, he's a guy. He didn't have a great NCAA tournament last year. I don't remember if he ended up All-American, making All-American, but if he did, it was lower than expected. But this year he's been lights out. OSU, he's definitely one of the guys that's, I think, benefited most. Something I think is really interesting too, that quarterfinal 8 versus 9 seed, Lenny Pinto and Karchula, the winner of that more than likely getting O'Toole. That's going to be a crazy quarter, I think. All 3 of those guys are really tough. Definitely way different styles, but it'll be interesting to see Keegan match up with either Pinto or Karchula.
Has he wrestled Karchula before, or has he wrestled Carson yet?
I don't know. I don't know if he has.
I feel like a guy that isn't the kind of person that Keegan can kind of do his normal, where he's long, he can kind of switch over, reach over the head, kind of maybe catch cradle, wrestle while on top. I feel like it's going to be interesting to see his body type wrestle against O'Toole, where maybe Carson hasn't really been hammering a bunch of guys before, throughout the season, but he's also one that you can't do that to either.
Right. Yeah, he's just solid. He's just he's got a crazy build, and his style is very unique.
He's got that Afazia, that Russian build. His dad's from the same region as Sargush.
Yeah.
Over in Russia.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, they have the same, that similar, big back.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember Rustam Ampar. He was one of my training partners. He wrestled. He was a Urigan champ, but he was number 2 in Russia, I think, for a little bit with Rashidov. But he's from that region of Apazia. It's connected to Georgia. And the only person, I guess, that all these Russians that you see from Dagestan or Chechnya, or people living here, in the U.S., the only person that Carson Miran's knew, or that was from the same area as Rustam. And that's really rare, because it's only a couple 100,000 people from that area. Wow. So it's kind of rare. He's so he's built, they all have the same build physically. You know what I mean?
So they're all kind of related somehow.
Yeah, probably a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's wild. I mean, that's such a tough area. I feel like that Russia, the Georgian, Stevan, you were able to just train with Marab, right?
Yeah, I did. I was out in my lifting coach, my strength and conditioning coach. He trains a lot of athletes. He trains Chiesa. He trains Brady Heastand. He trained Terrence McKinney for a little while. So he's and he wrestled. So Yeah, he's helped me tremendously, kind of where having that same, UFC, PI, like, the scientific end going into my wrestling really has helped a little bit with my strength training. And so I was out there actually just doing some stuff, and I ended up going in and working with Marab because Brady trained with him a lot. And he's like the most down-to-earth dude. He is, and what I really like about him too, it's like he really respects and understands wrestling and sees the value of wrestling. And obviously you can see it in his fighting, but yeah, it was awesome.
That's great. Yeah, did you guys just wrestle, or did you kind of roll around, or what was the workout?
We just wrestled some positional stuff, a lot of like high crotch, double, single starts and stuff. But I'm definitely want to go down there with him again, and I'd like to maybe like help him out or do some stuff with his camp because he really liked me a lot, and he's very genuine person. He likes. He seems like he's always wants to be pushed and wants to grow. He's got that workhorse mentality too. So I think, it obviously expanding and being against guys where now his weight class is getting deeper when it comes to wrestling. You have like Umar in there. I think he definitely wants to keep improving. So
yeah, it seems like his style, it could use a little bit of like technical detail and nuance.
He needs to polish up a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you watched this fight with Umar, and it was like, dude, just take him down and actually like get like 4 or 5. You could probably take him down, and it's like if Umar sits the corner, gets behind you, or gets a takedown or two, it could be a totally different match.
Right.
So
yeah, no doubt. Yeah, that's I think that's really cool that he appreciates and respects the wrestling, and like you said, you see it in how he competes.
Well, you know how it is. Like, I mean, obviously you're doing amazing yourself in the UFC, but like probably training with guys. And now, like, if you weren't fighting, but when you were just wrestling, it's like some guys are like, oh, yeah, like they don't know what it is like to be an NCAA champion wrestler or to be a world champion wrestler or like to go and do these kind of things and, qualify for the Olympics or whatever it is. They don't understand like how high and how like what that means for them. So then but then they see it and they feel it and they say, oh, like, how can this help me out? It's like,
Yeah, there's definitely a difference. It's really interesting in the MMA space because I feel like the perception of good wrestling is like really skewed. Some people, they'll be like, this guy's like amazing wrestler, and if you actually understand and know wrestling, you'd be like, well, no, not really, like, or oh, we have like these great wrestling technique or this detail, and it's like, dude, that's like what we learned when we were 7, so. It seems like, and the other thing I feel like there's a lot of guys, like wrestling in MMA is definitely different than just straight wrestling, but I feel like you got to get the right information, like if I'm learning striking or learning jiu-jitsu, I want to learn at a world-class level and then apply that and figure out how to be creative and mix that into my MMA fighting, right? It's tough when you're getting like almost information that's not as high level, and then you're trying to, then like use it. Like I'd rather just get the best stuff.
100%. But I also think like being as high level of a wrestler that you are, you can't like. You can take a lot of things from whether it is like your striking and learning how to like close the gap to your takedowns or your not getting caught in any submissions or like doing things in that end but kind of keeping true to your wrestling while learning those things and taking away those like kind of like the world class pieces of each thing, but staying true to yourself I think will always go the furthest, especially like wrestling is a little different, but at the same time like our body awareness and how we can move because of the sport of wrestling. It's like you can't teach that to someone who's 25 years old like you can like teach jiu-jitsu to someone who's 25. Like just it looks like someone walking versus someone who uses crutches that you could tell if someone wrestled or not,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can just never make up the gap really if you started when you were young, whereas in the other disciplines you can.
You guys made me think of this one thing. I feel like, Bo, you were talking about learning things at a world-class level, right, from other disciplines. I feel like, and you could speak on this since you're currently doing it, but I feel like, let's say you're doing boxing, right? You're learning how to strike. You got to understand timing, the concept of timing and movement in space, and then also how do you find your entry points for when you want to throw a jab or put a combination together, right? And so I feel like if you try and learn something at a world-class level in one discipline, you can take those concepts, you can parallel them and apply them to the discipline you're already currently good at. So, for example, if I'm striking, right, and I'm learning how to move in space, I use a feint to create a reaction, right, and then I'm working off of that to determine when I want to come in and when I want to go back out, right? Like, create my opportunities off of that. It's like you can apply that same concept to world-class high-level wrestling. It's like moving in space. I fake, change levels, get my opponent to react, and I can decide what I want to do based off that information, right? It's like,
no, yeah, you're absolutely right. I think that for me, I just take like my wrestling style and what I learned, what I built my system in wrestling around, and then I just apply that to whatever else I'm doing. And like I'm doing something different, but it's the same application. So when I wrestle, all I'm thinking about in my head is I'm going to circle to my right. I'm going to control the ties with my right hand, and then I'm going to shoot with my left hand. That's like the start, right? And then obviously, you go down many, many different roads from there, but it's just like simplifying everything and keeping it positionally and technically sound. And then from there, once you master that and master the fundamentals of position, you can kind of do whatever you want. So it's the same thing with, whether I'm going to shoot a high crotch or whether I'm going to throw a kick or throw a left hand or try to get a submission. It's just like figuring out systematically figuring out what you want to do, like what's your system, and then you just kind of master the basics, master the fundamentals, and then you are able to be more and more creative from there. I think that's why that's why wrestling is so competitive and why people are so good. It's so hard to be a national champ and a world champ, Olympic champ, because guys start learning their systems and learning their foundation when they're 5, and then by the time they're 15, they've basically become a master at it. And then by the time you're 25, it's like you only are competitive if you're just a freak at everything. Like you can't, you can't just pick it up and start it. It's like, dude, like imagine if some guy started golfing for, a year or 2 or 3 years and then was like, yeah, I'm going to go beat Tiger Woods in golf or beat Jordan Spieth or, any of these guys. Like, it's not happening. And in MMA, it's almost like that is what people expect. They expect like, oh, I can just like learn how to sprawl. Like, all right, like not really,
Yeah. They probably just think that because there's so many different things that can apply and like, okay, yeah, but like at the same, it's wild to me how that thought process even comes into play. But
and my thing is the other thing that I feel like I've been thinking about a lot that's been really interesting is that with wrestling, specifically American wrestling, like a lot of what MMA is what sport's the best, right? Is it wrestling, jiu-jitsu, boxing, karate? Like what's the best, right? Or what area is the best? And so when I look at American wrestling over the last, let's call it a decade and a half, none of our best wrestlers have gone into MMA. Like name 5 guys that have gone from NCAA wrestling or World Olympic wrestling into and tried to fight that you are really like, that guy's one of the best wrestlers. Nobody.
No, boy, you're the best college wrestler that's entered the space. And like that's what I was thinking, like, oh, like how would I, fare? And obviously when you look at it, you're just like, the best freestyle guys have been Henry and DC.
Yeah,
like,
that's it.
And look where they've cemented, or wrestlers
they're like
in general. Look where
they're all-time greatest. And like let's talk about it realistically.
And
I think these guys both agree with me. Henry was an amazing freestyle wrestler, like unbelievable freestyle wrestler. Won the Olympics at whatever 18 or 19, but he never wrestled collegiately. And then he started fighting pretty early, like so. It wasn't really like and look, he's one of the best of all time. DC was an Olympian, but I don't think he ever won the nationals. I don't think he ever was like an NCAA champ. Bro,
I think his best medal. I think he got bronze one year at the World Championships. But
so he's very high level, like one of the best guys in the world. But those are 2 guys, and they've cemented themselves as like top 10 all-time UFC fighters. Imagine if we had so there's 330 guys competing at this NCAA tournament, right? Imagine if 33 of these guys, I just, one each weight started fighting. Like, dude, imagine if 10%, imagine if 10% of the guys that were NCAA qualifiers started fighting after college. Bro, there would be nobody in the rankings other than wrestlers. It would be over.
It would be over.
It would be done. And so that's where
look at all these, like, the Dagestan guys, like this new little Kavkaz region takeover type thing.
Mm-hmm.
All of those guys are like failed wrestlers, the ones who like didn't make it far enough to even wrestle. Like they did it. Okay, I wrestled and I decided to go and do sambo because I after like U17s, like I wasn't good enough to wrestle anymore.
Yeah.
And it's for them though. The difference is like their freestyle guys, the way the Russian Federation takes care of them, it's not worth like Sidakov and like Sedulayev to decide to come into the UFC because they're like cemented, like their legacies in wrestling is so cemented. They're like, it's like their fame and what they are in the sport like is forever there. So it's not worth them doing that. But look at like you're saying, like you could literally have college wrestlers go into it, and it wouldn't even be a close situation.
Yeah, like I just think if we had 20 guys a year, which is not very many, like not a small number every year, transition to MMA, in 5 years nobody would win other than college wrestlers. Like nobody would get a single win. But it's just like that's what people don't realize, and so people. I think MMA fans, from what I've seen, they're like, oh, American wrestling, no good, this or that. It's like you don't even know who's good. Like you're talking about like the guys that you're talking about as American wrestlers wrestled like 3 years in high school. They're not even real wrestlers. It's like, so you don't have anybody that's competing at a Division I level or competing at a world championship level that is right now transferring into MMA. So I mean, we'll see. There's a lot of opportunities with RTCs now and different stuff where guys don't feel like, you really don't have to fight. Like I'm only fighting because I want to and I like it and it's really fun. But I would hope that there are a few more guys that maybe get motivated to do it. And because I don't know, it's nice to have other guys that come from that same background around you.
There's nothing like it, man. Like the fighting verse compared to the wrestling verse, it's like just meeting someone that like you see like wrestled or know a wrestler that or something. It's just like there's just something about it that like connects differently than other combat sports or kind of being in that like the MMA lifestyle, like that's their culture. It's a way different, or jiu-jitsu culture. It's like I don't know.
Yeah, it's just like
there's this.
It's more ingrained in you. Like it's more of that's a big reason why I spend a good amount of my time still in state college with Penn State and NLWC training, is just because I just love the guys. I love the team. I love being around everybody. Just good people, down to earth, humble. That's like what I want to be around. And I mean, there's good people in MMA as well, but really when I think about who I think of as my role models and who I think of as guys that I want to be like, it's all my wrestling teammates and coaches. Like I just love those guys. They're just the best.
Something else that was very interesting you brought up was the wrestlers transitioning into MMA, and another example that we have is from another guy from our gym, Dave Evans, who wrestled at Penn State, like has never made the lineup and absolutely dominated his first two fights, and it wasn't even close. Yeah,
so we have a couple of guys that are like David Evans is one. You guys wouldn't know him, but he backed up Bartlett. You know Evans? All right, you've been out here enough.
Because
you guys,
you
guys probably like trained together and whatnot. But he's taken 2 amateur fights. He lost like really close matches to Kasak and Bartlett for the wrestle-off. But now he's like, I want to fight, and so he's already 2-0 amateur, and he's still in college. Like he's got a full semester left of school, so we'll see. Hopefully, more guys like that start to make a transition.
If you guys like that clip, check out the whole podcast here, and make sure to hit that subscribe button.